April the 13th, 2020. I'm Sean Paul Day and welcome to What the Papers Say.
You found London Taxi Radio, the station for London's taxi drivers.
The front page of the Daily Express was dominated by an image of Amy Gould, an intensive care nurse from Nottinghamshire. She posted a picture online of herself at the end of her shift. Her face, a mass of marks, sores and red patches because of the tight-fitting mask she had been wearing for 13 hours. Bruised, battered and exhausted, the Express says Amy Gould begged people to remember the face and to stay at home. The Daily Mirror led on complaints by some NHS staff of the lack of personal protective equipment, which it illustrated with a picture on its front page of 3 nurses wearing improvised gowns made out of bin bags. Others are resorting to cutting up hospital curtains or using bits of plastic as makeshift masks, the Mirror says, or even reusing old scrubs. The Guardian focused on the first 10 doctors in the UK named as having died from COVID-19, all of whom were from ethnic minorities. It reported that the British Medical Association had asked the government to urgently investigate what it called an extremely disturbing and worrying trend. The chairman of the BMA, Dr. Chad Nagpal, told the paper, "At face value, it seems hard to see how this can be random." The Daily Telegraph says ministers now believe the cost of the crisis here could be the economy slumping by more than 14% in the next 3 months. That is sparking concerns. It says that tens of thousands of Britons may die prematurely from the worst recession in history, with the lockdown ultimately proving more lethal to the health of the country than the coronavirus itself. Now, I'm not an authoritarian here, and I don't know when and where to draw the line. But let's face it, crippling people economically for potentially the rest of their lives isn't compassionate either, and my fear is what won't be considered is the aftermath. It's all very well taking care of people while the pandemic is ravaging its way through society, but the recovery for many people is going to be equally as difficult, and I just hope the government will put substantive provisions in place to help everyone, not least the self-employed, when all is done and dusted. With that, the Daily Mail reported that officials believe normal life will have to stay on hold until a vaccine becomes available in about 18 months' time. Ministers, however, want to lift some restrictions within weeks, it says, but nonetheless, the country will have to get used to a new normal until effective medication is available. The Daily Telegraph's take is even more gloomy. Social distancing could be indefinite is the headline. It reports people will be asked to consider whether social interactions, such as returning to the office or visiting relations, are necessary as part of a plan to live with the virus for months or even years, which could be difficult for some. The Sun reported on a brave NHS nurse who filmed and confronted a group of absolute idiots she saw boozing in a park amid the coronavirus lockdown. Footage posted to social media shows the woman forcing the gang of 6 with bikes to go home after seeing them lounging on a grassy footpath. Here is what she had to say.
My husband is not getting paid. I have to go in and do overtime all the time. I've got 2 kids in there.
Well, don't stand near us then, innit?
And I have to go to work every day fearing I'm going to bring it home to my family because of people like you. You're absolute idiots.
Well, stop fucking recording me now.
No! If you're going to be stupid, then I'll show the world how stupid you are. Absolute idiots. Why do you think you're better than everyone else? I've got no idea. That's it. Jog on. Go all back to your house in Kempshire. I'm sure it's a mansion fitting all you turds in it.
The Mirror reported that nurses are being abused by their neighbours for driving to work. Ruth May, Chief Nursing Officer for England, told the coronavirus press briefing at Downing Street that it was frustrating to see members of the public not following social distancing rules during the lockdown while medical staff face abuse from their neighbours. Here's what she told the briefing.
It's personally frustrating to see people clearly not doing social distancing and clearly coming out in large groups. I was only on the way here, going over Westminster Bridge, seeing a whole horde of cyclists coming together. It is enormously frustrating. And the reason that is frustrating is because there's also still occasions where my colleagues are getting abuse from their neighbours for driving off to work. So Sam, a nurse in a mental health organisation in east of England, had grief from her neighbours because she was travelling to work. Our nurses, our healthcare staff need to be able to get to work. It's right and proper they do. But my ask of everybody, please stay at home, save lives and protect my staff.
The Times has spoken to the British scientist leading what it calls one of the world's most advanced efforts to find a vaccine, who says it could be ready as soon as September. Sarah Gilbert, Professor of Vaccinology at Oxford University, told the paper she's 80% confident that the vaccine being developed by her team will work. Several papers focused on the health of the Prime Minister. The Sun says Boris Johnson's fiancée Carrie Symonds sent him daily letters and scans of their unborn child whilst he was in intensive care in order to lift his spirits. As Mr Johnson gets better, the Times says he needed things to do as he rests. The paper reported his activities have included doing puzzles and watching films such as the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Withnail and I. My London reported on the army of black cabs and their drivers being lined up to transport coronavirus patients to 2 new specialist GP clinics in South East London. With the London ambulance service at full capacity, Hackney carriage drivers have been chosen to fill the gap because of their in-depth knowledge of London's roads. The traditional black cab also benefits from having a spacious passenger area and folding seats which are useful for moving patients. The payment trays typically found inside black cabs will be sealed with adhesive to ensure driver safety. An NHS spokesperson said, "We are working with licensed Hackney carriage drivers to safely transport people in Southwark with non-urgent suspected COVID-19 symptoms who require assessment for other health conditions to a GP clinic. We can always rely on Uber making the news, mostly for all the wrong reasons." Its CEO Dara Khosrowshahi tried to PR the company by saying it was offering the NHS workers £100,000 worth of free rides. The idea was jumped on by Uber advocates Matt Hancock and Andrew Boff, but the reality is very different. Staff experience cancellations and not just being charged, but overcharged. Not only that, the fact that the Health Secretary would go against his own advice and breach the World Health Organisation's 2-metre rule is nothing short of reckless. The fact that NHS workers are being targeted and encouraged to put themselves and others at risk is pretty reprehensible. Furthermore, the NHS needs funding, and Uber is a company that shirks employment laws that would effectively take care of its drivers in the event that they became sick. It domiciles its tax affairs abroad and owes HMRC $1.5 billion in unpaid tax. No one should be singing the praises of this parasitical company, not least the Health Secretary or a member of the London Assembly. The Times reported that the environment is at least benefiting. It says cities including London, Leeds, Oxford and Glasgow have seen big falls in nitrogen oxide levels. One expert tells the paper that the change is so profound it is the equivalent of everyone switching to electric cars. With that, It's good to know that the taxi trade is leading the way by converting to electric and ensuring this outcome becomes a reality. That's it from me for today. Stay safe, keep healthy, and if you need to ask for help, there is no harm in doing so. You will be surprised at how many people are willing to put themselves out. Be good, and I'll see you out there on the other side.
London Taxi Radio through your mobile and the internet.